If your heart is damaged, how do you heal it? That's what I want to talk about today. Welcome to A Beautiful Thought. Thanks for joining me. If you do enjoy something about this episode, maybe keep in the back of your mind what you enjoy and who else might enjoy it, because you can send a little message to a friend telling them what's good about this project and give them a little reason to listen. Quick little content warning. In this episode, I do talk a bit about shamanic substances, shamanic medicines. So just letting you know. Let's begin.
This is A Beautiful Thought.
Welcome, beautiful thinkers. Welcome, travelers and adventurers. I'd like to tell you a story. And this story, trying to give a little disclaimer here, it does involve substances. Some people will call them drugs. I'm talking about sacred medicine, specifically ayahuasca. And, a lot of the time I avoid talking about it on this podcast, or I have up to this point, because I don't want people to think that you need these substances to get in contact with the kind of states of mind or states of being that I'm talking about. So if it's a part of your path, that's great. If it's not, that's fine too. So you don't need to think that there's some kind of pressure to do these things, or you can only be at a certain level of happiness if you take them or something like that. It's not true. Everything is for you. Happiness and joy and everything, it's all for you. And you don't need to necessarily take any substances to be a part of that. So this story, I guess it begins when I moved to Mexico in 2014. And I started having these strange experiences with ghosts. So there were a lot of strange dreams. Like I remember I had this dream soon after I moved to this house in Guadalajara. We call it Casa Jesus because it was on Jesus Street. And I had this dream. I was in my parents' house in my old bedroom, and I was with my lover. And she said, "Is somebody watching us from the hallway?" I said, "I don't think so." We looked over, the door was open. We walk out into the hallway, and in the hallway, on the wall, there's a whole bunch of photos of my family. And my lover points to one of these photos and says, "Oh, how handsome you look in that photo." I look and I realize the photo is not of me. It's of a doll being treated as if it's a member of the family. And when I look at the face of the doll, it starts melting and making these deformed facial expressions. In that moment, I wake up and my body is completely covered in goosebumps. I've never been so completely covered in goosebumps like that. I walk around the room. It was very strange because standing at some points in the room, I would be covered in goosebumps, and other points I would not. Even to the point where my entire left side would be covered in goosebumps, and my right side would be free of goosebumps. And I was like, all right, this is really weird. I ended up buying some sage to burn and some incense and these kind of things to try to protect myself. A lot of things happened. I remember there was one night where there was a young Brazilian lady staying upstairs. And this night, I also had one of these dreams. It was like I was in Mexico City and walking to my house. And this guy in this big black hat, wide-brimmed hat, started trying to stop me, but I couldn't really see his face. And I just walked away as quickly as I could, got to my house, closed the door, went up the stairs, and I heard him banging on the door, and it's like, hey, I know what you did. I know what you did. And I was like, whoa, what is this? What's going on? He started threatening me and members of my family. It was quite disturbing. I woke up again, goosebumps on my body and this kind of thing, burnt some sage. It was around 3 a.m. In the morning, I learned that the young Brazilian lady upstairs had also had an experience that night, this kind of night terror where there was this, she'd woken up in sleep paralysis, couldn't move, saw this dark shadow in the corner of the room. And every time she looked, it was closer and closer to her until it was right next to her in the bed. At first, she thought it was our housemate, but then she realized it wasn't, and this thing was saying to her, how nice that you're in this state so I can talk to you. And she was like, nope. In that moment, she gained the strength to jump out of sleep paralysis and ran down and slept in my housemate's room on the couch or whatever. Woo! Wild, weird stuff goes down. And you know, this is part of the reason, to frame it a different way, I like that. I kind of like that this stuff can happen, especially happened for me in Mexico, because it highlights to me that, hey, there's something going on here outside the bounds of ordinary human experience. And this is part of the reason I say Mexico is a portal to another world. So even though my experiences were uncomfortable, I thought there is some potential for some wonderful experiences there. And I later did experience those. Then months later, I was in an apartment in Santa Tere, living there on my own for the most part. And the experiences got way too intense, and I was asking people for recommendations for somebody who could help me with my ghost problem. So it got to the point where I remember I was seeing things or feeling things even before the sun had gone down. So one day it was like 5:30 or 6 p.m. Sun's still very much in the sky and shining through my window. And I had the experience of this big thing, like this 7 or 8 foot kind of monster. I could feel its presence standing in my doorway and just kind of watching me. And there's also like this 2-3 foot little thing next to my bed staring at me intently, expectantly. Another night, I remember I noticed there was something sitting in the chair at my desk, and it's trying to do something to me, like manipulate my energies, I don't know what. And I was trying to scare it off by being cocky or egotistical, or I'd put on this facade of cockiness to try to deal with this stuff. And I said, hey, do you know what I am? And to be honest, I didn't even know what I meant by that. But I'm trying to portray myself as something powerful. And this thing says to me, I know what you are. And I like it. And I was like, oh, that's creepy, man. So I managed to find, from the recommendation of a friend, this woman who called herself a spiritual psychologist. Which is interesting because she'd studied psychology, and then she decided that actually there's a lot of key things in psychology or in modern science that are missing. And so she went on to pursue a spiritual path, partly involving Catholicism and some other things. And so she came to my house and she blessed the house, did a Catholic blessing, she used salt and holy water. And she also did some energy work with me, like a sort of Reiki or something similar. And I could tell that this woman knew what she was doing because I could feel the energy was really strong. And she also did hypnosis and put me in a trance deeper than I've ever gone in hypnosis. It was very unusual. I remember at some point I opened my eyes. Somehow I got distracted or something or misinterpreted what she said, and I noticed, whoa, hang on, the room looks really weird because I'm still in this trance state. She's like, just close your eyes. Go back to the place. So she also recommended that I write out some letters. So I had a friend who recently committed suicide, and that had probably influenced my psyche. Something was going on inside me. Like this friend, before he committed suicide, I hadn't spoke to him in years. And we kind of ended on not the best of terms. So there was some inquietude in my heart, and Liliana recommended that I write a letter to my friend and burn it. And this is interesting too, because this makes sense from a spiritual perspective, because it's like, just like the Chinese do in Ghost Month, they burn money so it gets sent to the underworld. It's like you're converting earth into air by using fire, something like that. It also makes sense from a psychological, psychomagic perspective, because seeing your letter being burnt before your eyes has a significance. Like, I know that part of my life is over now and I can gain some closure. So that helped. My problems persisted a bit though. And soon afterwards, I met this fellow at a party, Dave, and Dave told us something about the glory of the universe. And I was like, okay, this dude is on to something. What is going on here? And he started telling us about his experiences with ayahuasca and how he had contacted this divine part of himself or of the universe. And I thought, this is very interesting. And previously, I'd been looking for an experience like this. I'd been looking specifically for an ayahuasca shaman in Guadalajara. But for various reasons, things didn't coincide and I wasn't able to. That was about a year before. So people say these things appear when you're ready for them. Or the tradition is, when the student is ready, the master will appear. And it's really quite unusual. If you ask people about this, sometimes the stories that they tell about how things just happen to pop up, it's quite interesting. So Dave said he would accompany us. He was ready to go for another journey, and he invited me to the ceremony. And so he also was willing to help me a bit and guide me and translate things. So sometimes I missed some of the things that the shaman was saying in Spanish. And so that was very kind of him. And this is a sort of tradition, I suppose, because it's like when you have such a beautiful experience, you want to share it with somebody and you want to take their hand and try to show them the right way to do it if you can, and make it easy as possible. I remember at one point in the night, Dave handed me a pack of tissues and said, "Hey, you may need these." Or maybe he said, "You will need these." And he was right. I cried my little heart out that night. And I saw a lot of things. I had to ask myself a lot of questions. All right, I didn't have to, but I was presented with a lot of questions, and I recognized them as valuable questions, and I asked them. And they say ayahuasca gives you homework. You have this experience, and then afterwards you know that for your own good, there are certain things that you could do to improve. The culmination of the journey, after asking myself so many questions about the nature of love, about romantic love, familial love, love between friends, love for oneself. At the start of the journey, I'd set my intention. So that's part of the tradition. You think deeply about your own purpose, and you ask a question. My question was, so many people say to me when I talk about these ghosts and things, they say, you have this don. In Spanish, tienes este don, you have this gift. And I was like, what gift? Is this a gift? Seeing strange things in the night, feeling them touching me or whatever it is, doesn't seem like much of a gift. So my question was, how can I make this a gift for real? How can I convert this, or transmute it, or turn it around, look at it from a different perspective so I see that, yes, this thing is a blessing? The answer I got was quite simple. After laying all the groundwork, Grandmother Ayahuasca said to me, listen, if your heart is complete, these things cannot hurt you. Later I learned, when your heart is complete, these things won't want to even hurt you. Because who would want to hurt someone who's showing love to the world? Not even the foulest, most corrupt, darkest demon could stand in the face of love and show it hate. That's a difficult thing to do. Love is more powerful than hatred. I've seen it. That's what I wanted to share to you. If you're going through a difficult time, maybe your gifts are there and they don't look like gifts. Maybe they look like something very different, and you're thinking, why has life or fate given me this rotten hand? One of the most important phases of the hero is the refusal of the journey. But every hero eventually ends up accepting the call to adventure. Thank you for listening. Thank you for thinking beautifully. Thank you for opening your heart and healing yourself so you can show others the kindness and more kindness that has been shown to you. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
A beautiful thought.
Thanks for coming along for the journey. If you have something to say to me, some kind of feedback, you want to tell me what's good about this or how I could improve it, that would be great. Or even if you have a similar story that you want to share with me, actually, I would be very interested in hearing that. My email address, kurt@beautifulpodcast.com. So check out the website as well, beautifulpodcast.com. You see on there, I'm selling my CBT services. So if you're curious about that, about how I might be able to help you give some insight in your life and help you with an action plan on how to move forward to a life that's more fulfilling and interesting and full of adventure, then go ahead, beautifulpodcast.com, and see the link in the header, CBT sessions. All right, have a wonderful day.